Hey everybody, welcome to Grimsforge Gaming. Today we're going to be covering my Witcher. This is a Necromancer Bowman, and we are currently using Oakensoul on this. I've been doing a lot of testing trying to find the sweet spot for a Bowman on Necromancer, and I've always played Witcher as a Bowman with Witcher Ebonslayer, so he's not necessarily the Witcher from the series or the game, but he's my own iteration of the Witcher. But anyways, we have a couple builds for you today, and we're going to jump in and talk about those. These builds can be used in all PvP areas, right? But specifically, I really like Battlegrounds and no CP scenarios for Witcher. In CP, IC, CP, Cyrodiil, right now you're just running into a lot of ball groups. Healing is just off the charts. It's too much to kill large groups most of the time, and unless you're running Plague Break and Dark Convergence and stuff, which we're not on this build. So this build can be played in those areas. You're going to have less success, but if you're playing this in Battlegrounds or you're playing this in no CP Imperial City or no CP Cyrodiil, you'll have a lot of fun with it. Okay, let's just jump right in. So if you watched the video that I released maybe a week or two ago, I was build testing, and ultimately that ended up being the build that I went with for Witcher. That's this build here. You can see we are running Oakensoul. All of our jewelry is going to be infused weapon damage, and Oakensoul has all those crazy buffs, okay? And I paired Oakensoul with a craftable set called Eternal Hunt, and the 2-piece is good, max stam, sorry. The 3-piece is good with stam recovery, and 4 pieces stam recovery. And in no CPs, you really need to be focused on high stam recovery and weapon damage as well, right? Or damage, right? And so Oakensoul brings the damage, no problem, and some tanky, and so then you just build for sustain, and you'll usually win most of those fights. And so that's what we did. Now, Eternal Hunt is considered a proc set, so down in Cyrodiil and IC, this 5-piece here, when you use a roll dodge, you leave behind a rune that detonates an enemy when an enemy comes close, and it does 5k poison damage and immobilizes them for 1.5 seconds. This effect scales off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. Now, it's considered a proc set, so in Imperial City, no CP, and Cyrodiil, no CP, it does not leave the rune behind you, but in Battlegrounds it does. So when you're watching that video, you can see how I like to best utilize this set, okay? So this is the Battleground set, and in Battlegrounds are no CP, so what I did was I came down to no CP Imperial City, so you can see what the what the stats are going to look like on this. Now, you could switch out this max stamina enchant for a max health enchant, same with this one, and that's going to put you closer to the 30k health, and it will drop your max stam to 24,000, 23,000. That's fine when you have this type of recovery. Right now the meta for everybody is running higher health because the damage is at an all-time high in the game. We've never seen higher damage numbers than what are in the game right now between Dark Convergence, Plague Break, Occult Overload, and all the other Oakensoul, all the other things that are in the game right now. Damage is just through the roof, okay? There's not a lot of balance, and so driving your health up as high as you can would be the way to go, and I would say 30 to 35k is a safer route. Now for me, I'm an experienced bow user or bowman, right? I've played Witcher like this all the time. I've got Hawkeye, and I've got Green Arrow, and I've got Hachiman, and I've got all these, Dread Caller and Dread Arrow. I've got all these bow guys, and so Artemis. So this playstyle is very comfortable for me. Probably my favorite playstyle is using a bow, and so this works out. You can see our weapon critical is going to be close to 30%. That's not bad, and then our physical pen is at 6k down here in no CP. Our weapon damage on this build is going to be 4,500, almost 4,600, and this seems to be okay. We're able to put people away no problem just because of the way the burst lines up. Okay, the next set that we paired this with, and this is a staple for my bowmen right now, and especially Battlegrounds and no CP, is going to be Jailbreaker. Jailbreaker, some max stam, and then a bunch of stam recovery, and then gain minor expedition at all times, increasing your movement speed by 15%. And so if you're running celerity and other movement speed bonuses on this build, so like if I were running Wild Hunt and not Oakensoul, I wouldn't run Jailbreaker. But because I'm running Oakensoul and I lose a minimum of 15% movement speed while I'm in combat, that minor expedition from Jailbreaker made up for that. Okay, so that's where I need to be in my movement speed on a bowman. The thing about it, unless you're playing a Nightblade bowman and you can stealth in and out, and I am a vampire on this, so I can, go invis, I guess, or hide and move around, no problem. I can dodge roll and move around like that, so that works out really well. But I don't generally, after a kill, go right into hiding and move around and try and burn what stamina I have, trying to get to a fight. And so, but if that's your play style and you like using invis pots and stuff like that, by all means, you do you. So, and a lot of people are doing that right now, especially no CP. There's a lot of people using invis pots right now. So anyways, Jailbreaker and Eternal Hunt, and then we have a one-piece trainee. Now, like I said, the enchants on these don't necessarily matter. Just do what you can to get your max health up as close to 30k as possible, and your max stam probably over 22,000 max stam. Get your stam recovery to 2,000 roughly, and you can see that when we pop a potion and then we go look at our stats there, our stam recovery goes up to almost 2,400. That's really good considering the amount of dodge rolling that we do. Speed and dodge rolling are our major damage mitigations on this build. People can see us, they see where we're at, and they're coming for us, okay? Unless you're stealthing around burning stamina, all right? Eternal Hunt, though, is my Battlegrounds go-to. Jailbreaker paired with that, and one-piece trainee. You can see that I'm running one heavy headpiece and one heavy chest, and then a heavy shoulder for my Battleground build, and then I'm running 4 mediums, okay? And they are a hodgepodge of different traits. We've got well-fitted, we've got impen, well-fitted, training. Not going to spend the transmutes to change that right now. Reinforced, I wish this was well-fitted or impen, and then well-fitted. And then you can see that we are running infused weapon damage on everything else, and we're running a shock glyph on our Eternal Bow sharpened. If you wanted to drive your weapon damage up even higher, you would want to make this Nern honed. You'd get an extra 15% weapon damage, but the pen is very important on a bow build, and I don't have marked target on Witcher, and so I don't have a way to apply like major breach to them. And so I do have a way to apply minor breach, and so physical pen's pretty important, so sharpen was the way to go, okay? You can see our spell resistance and physical resistance is at 22,000. That's pretty respectable. I've played bowman builds that are less than that, so this feels really good. And then our crit resistance is about 1,400. So this is nice. Our max mag, we're not so worried about our total numbers on it. 12k is just fine because I'm only running one magic ability currently, okay? So that's that build. Let me show you what I switch this out to if I'm running Imperial City or I'm running Cyrodiil. And all I do is I come and I switch out all of my Eternal Hunt for Marksman, okay? And we're gonna drop that there. Okay, so now we have 5-piece Marksman, 1-piece trainee still for that max health, and you can see Marksman's stam recovery, and then weapon damage, and then reduce the cost of your stamina abilities by 5% and increase the damage of your bow abilities to players by 8%. So that works out really well. We're running sharpened and shock damage on our bow, And so works out. And you can see our stats are very similar. I did have to put a max health enchant on both of these to get to that 30k, because in Cyrodiil we're more likely to run into crazy outnumbered, and I did need to drive my health up more. And so, and then you see my recoveries are even more on this particular build. While my max stam's a little less, the recoveries being more, that works out great. Our weapon damage is more on marksman. We hit single players very hard, and our weapon critical is at 30%, just under, and that's nice. So you'll see a lot of crits from this build, and when the crits hit, because of Oakensoul and all the buffs that brings, they hit real hard. Physical pen's still at 6,000. Our physical and spell resistance took a little bit of a hit because we lost 2 heavy armor pieces. Now we're running 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 medium, 1 heavy, and before we were running the 3 heavy. Okay, so there's that. Okay, let's look at the abilities. My abilities stay the same regardless of where we're playing at, whether it be Imperial City, CP, or no CP, Cyrodiil, or if we're doing Battlegrounds, the abilities stay the same. You can, however, Eternal Hunt has amazing use. Okay, if you've never used this, and it's a craftable set, the thing about Eternal Hunt is that trap that it leaves on the ground behind you and causes an immobilization. On our kit, our offensive kit right now, we have Magnum Shot, which is a hard CC or a stun, right? And it knocks them back. Eternal Hunt provides the soft CC, the root, the immobilization for me, okay, or the snare that allows me to create distance or separation. And so in that battle, or the battleground video, if you were to watch that, you can see there's lots of times where I have 2 people in front of me. I'll summon a Blast Bones and then dodge roll backwards, and that puts 2 lines of defenses between me and them. Number one, if they try and gap close to me, they're going to target the Blast Bones instead and gap close to the Blast Bones. Or if they're trying to range me, they're going to range the Blast Bones instead. And most of the time people don't carry enough pop to kill the Blast Bones. He might get to half health or have a quarter of health left, and then he explodes towards them and blows them up. But so that provides a line of security between me and them. Number two, if they were to get past the Blast Bones, like as soon as they gap close to the Blast Bones and they realize I didn't gap close to the dude, you know, to me, and they try and gap close to me, then they run through the Eternal Hunt trap, and then they get snared there for 1.5 seconds. And by that point, I've already lined aside or put additional damage into them or summoned even another Blast Bones for another line of defense. And it's just really freaking annoying to fight against when you understand how to create line of sights and play with speed and have great sustain and be able to dodge roll and mitigate a lot of damage. And what do you know, I can magnum shot them again, and there's another trap on the ground that they got to go through, and Blast Bones are blowing their face off. And so Eternal Hunt ended up being a lot of fun for Battlegrounds for me. I wish it wasn't considered a proc set. I would use it all day in Cyrodiil and all day in IC, no CP, but it is. So here we are with Marksman. Now, because Marksman doesn't have that type of utility as Eternal Hunt, I would put Trapping Poisons. And so let's look these up here real quick. Trapping Poisons applies hindrance and immobilizes your target, immobilizing them for 3.5 seconds and reducing their movement speed by 40%. Now, this does have a 10-second cooldown, and the 10-second cooldown is kind of annoying. This right here, even though it says it immobilizes them for 1.5 seconds, this has a 4-second cooldown because the individual that you just snared has CC immunity from immobilizations or roots, okay? And so that's important to know, is like they'll still take the damage from this, and like you'll dodge roll backwards, they'll gap close to you, get snared in it, and take the damage. You dodge roll backwards again, putting another trap. When they gap close to you that next time, they'll run through the trap, take the damage, but not get snared. And so this is on a 4-second cooldown, even though it doesn't specify it down there like PvP mechanics, right? Whereas this has a 10-second cooldown, and it's RNG and the fact that all poisons are applied 20% of the time on a light attack or heavy attacks or weapon abilities. And so it's not exactly every 10 seconds. It depends on if you're applying damage and whatnot, okay? But in the way of utility and gaining that trap that you missed by dropping Eternal Hunt, you could drop this on your bar and actually have some utility, some sustain on the 5-piece, and some additional damage to players, okay? And you'll lose out on the shock damage, which applies concussed, which is minor vulnerability to the target where they take more damage. So you need to decide, is my burst rotation enough to put people away, or do I, and if it is, then would it be worth gaining the utility of trapping poisons? Okay, that's up to you and your play style, so think about it. Okay, let's look at our abilities. Okay, so we are in no CP, keep that in mind. So tooltips are on the low. If I jumped into CP, we jump up much higher than this, but you can see I'm running focused aim, and focused aim is going to do the upfront damage, right? And it's got a 40 meter range, and I like that range in Cyrodiil and Imperial City. That's really nice range, and in Battlegrounds as well. And then the bottom part there inflicts minor breach on the target. And so for me, I know that pin is very important on bow builds, and so if you add this 3K on top of the 6 I already have, we're looking at 9K pin on people, so they're going to feel us hitting them, right? Now the other morph of this is going to apply minor defile, but it's only minor defile over 4 seconds, which means you have to kind of be a lethal arrow bow spammer, and I'm not a lethal arrow bow spammer. I might only get 1 or maybe 2, maybe 3 of these off on a person, but it's mostly the rotation between these that kills people. Okay, we're running Magnum Shot. I wouldn't run with the healing morph of this, even though I'm running Oakensoul and I only have 2 heals on the bar. I run Magnum Shot. We need that hard CC, especially this particular build, running Marksman. And so we are running Blast Bones. This applies major defile, which is why we don't need lethal arrow on our Witcher bowman, right? We're getting major defile from this, and it's the same duration. And so this hits really hard in no CP and Battlegrounds too. This will really chunk people. And so if nothing else, you can't channel this 0.8 seconds to hit people. You can just do light attack Magnum Shot and make sure that every second you can summon a Blast Bone. So Blast Bones up, light attack Magnum Shot. And even though the Magnum Shot, the hard CC is on a 7-second cooldown, the damage is not. So light attack Magnum Shot, light attack Magnum Shot, light attack Magnum Shot. And if you're not running the poisons, you're going to see your lightning enchant proccing from time to time from just that rotation. Now if you get time to line up a burst, it's going to be hit your lethal or hit your snipe, you're focused, and while this is charging that 0.8 seconds, hold heavy attack. And then once you get your timing down, you can release your heavy attack, and you'll have the timing to where your heavy attack or medium attack, whatever you want to call it, and your focused aim land simultaneously, and then you immediately hit them with a Magnum Shot just as your Blast Bones hits them. And so that's a lot of damage bursts. This is the perfect damage burst for a bowman and our Witcher, the way we like to play them. Resolving Vigor, it's got a 16K tooltip. This is a hot, okay, so you need to know that. I'm not currently running a burst heal. If you wanted to run a burst heal, I would drop Spirit Guardian, and I would put in probably resistant flesh. It's going to increase my physical resistances, and it's going to give you a burst heal, okay? But with Spirit Guardian up, this thing stays up for 16 seconds. While this is up, I have 10% damage mitigation. You see the bottom paragraph there. While active, 10% of your damage you take is transferred to the Spirit Guardian. Well, with Oakensoul, I also have major protection. So I've got 10% damage mitigation from Oakensoul and 10% damage mitigation for my Spirit Guardian, and because of that, just operating with HOTS seems to work. Now, if I get bogged down in a huge group, this is only single target, so if it's 5 people on me, I might be able to just magnum shot, and get 3, and I'm still going to have 2. So that speed from Jailbreaker and my dodge roll with a bow giving me major expedition, and then knowing how to play the field, where your line of sights are and things like that's very important. And we're always sitting on a bow ult. The bow ult on with Oakensoul, and it's got major heroism, is really good. Another option for this build, this is complete bonus build for you, and I was just thinking about this and I meant to throw it in earlier. You could pair Champion of the Hist with Briarheart and run like a 3-piece Briarheart on the body with the weapon, the bow for Briarheart, and then run Champion of the Hist. And you would have, in that moment, access to major and minor heroism, and you would get a big boost of weapon damage with heals coming in. And so that would be my third bonus. It's the secret build if you waited this far, okay? And so Champion of the Hist, Briarheart would be another option that I was looking at, and I'll explore that more. But Toxic Barrage, this is great against werewolves. This thing hits really hard against werewolves too, so just make sure you line up your burst that we talked about, and as soon as the Magnum Shot Blast Bones hits them, you're channeling a Toxic Barrage, and they're going to feel that for sure. Okay, there is no back bar, right? Because we are running Oakensoul. They allow us to look at our back bar, apparently. I didn't think that would work, but interesting. Can't switch here, but we can look at the abilities. So these are abilities I normally run if I'm running a two-hander and I'm not running Oakensoul and I'm running Wild Hunt. So something else, if you find yourself getting just blown up super quick, right, on this build, number one, it's probably you're out of position, or you're trying to not run speed Jailbreaker, that extra 15% movement speed, or you're not running Wild Hunt. If you're not running speed on a Necromancer Bowman, you're playing at a disadvantage because damage is super high. There's so many crazy builds out there and stuff like that. You have to play with speed, and you have to play with guaranteed hard CC. Okay, now you could switch this out for Bombard as well. Bombard is going to be an area of effect, conal effect in front of you, and it's going to do good damage, and it's going to immobilize everybody in front of you. Now if you're going to run Bombard, don't worry about running the trapping poisons, okay? And this will hit multiple targets. So when you're in extreme outnumbered situations, you need to hit multiple people. Bombard and Blast Bones work really well together, okay? And in those moments where you're extremely outnumbered, also I would move off Toxic Barrage, which is a single target heavy pressure, and I would just run Pestilent Colossus. And so the play would be do a focused aim and right into, pick your lowest health target or your healer, right? Tab target them, do a focused aim, heavy attack, release them simultaneously right into a Blast Bones hitting them, and then bombard them right into a Pestilent Colossus. And so that would be how, if we're fighting extremely outnumbered and they're balled up or something to that effect. And so I would run that setup. Now if you're getting your face blown off because damage is so high, then the ultimate of choice is going to have to be Ravenous Goliath, okay? And you know, Ravenous Goliath is going to give you that extra 30k max health and restore 30k. So it's basically a instant heal win button, you know, for the moment. So you're about to get zerged down, they're all up on top of you, you hit this, it's doing damage. And just make sure you continue to summon your Blast Bones and keep your heals up while you're within that ball group while this is going. And then Magnum Shot the people that you can, try and take a couple of them with you. I wouldn't even try, and once you go into this mode, you're here to fight, right? It's not go into this mode and then run, okay? So that's the play with that. We're not worried about the CP. If you guys want to see CP, I can show that to you at a later time. We're going to show you the last part of the build where we run to the crafting table here, or the outfit station, and I show you what pieces I'm wearing. I do get a lot of people that ask me what I'm wearing. They said, man, that really looks like The Witcher. That's really cool. And so we're going to jump in and look at that. Right now our helm is hidden, and the shoulder pieces are the Assassin's League pauldrons. And The gloves are going to be sword thanes. The legs are going to be pit demon, sword thane on the chest piece, sword thane on there, and sword thane on the boots. Okay, so that's our Witcher, and then we're running sword thane bow. So that sword thane, for the most part, really fits kind of the Witcher look, right? I like that a lot. Works out really well. I've been having a lot of fun with him, and as far as colors right now, the colors, this red color comes on Sword Thane, I believe, which is this blank slot right here, and on the gloves, that red is the blank slot, and then other than that, I'm running the Cold Harbor Ash Black. That'll give us that really dark, and then we're running rank 2 material, that whatever that gray is, and on it looks real shiny, kind of looks like an armor, so that's it, everybody. That is our Witcher Ebon Slayer. He's our bow user and very dangerous in battlegrounds with Eternal Hunt. Watch that gameplay. I'll link that for you for sure. And then I'm going to be getting some clips out in Cyrodiil, and I see no CP. No CP for me right now is the place to be. Really just kind of tired of all the Dark Convergence mostly, and Plague Break and Occult Overload. The ball groups are running those, and it used to be, you know, it supposedly was, hey, these things are created to kill the ball groups. No, my guy, the ball groups are using them, and they're just mowing everyone down in their path. So I'm just sticking to no CP, and if you want to come with me, I've got somebody on every faction. We've got EP, DC, and AD, and we run nightly. So if you want to run with us and no CP, check out our Grimsforge Gaming. We're putting together a guild that will run those, and we're going to try and make an impact in no CP. So, all right, everybody be safe out there. Bye.